Málaga Radio.
Freshly squeezed.
The juice on all the daily events along the coast.
With just a little bit of zest.
Hello and welcome to the Málaga Radio Weekly Diary. I'm Carmen.
And I'm Baptiste. Whether this is your first day on the Costa del Sol, your first time listening to Málaga Radio, or you already know the coast well, this is where we look ahead at what is happening across Málaga and the region over the next 7 days.
This episode covers Monday the 20th through Sunday the 26th of July. We have already looked through the week for you, from major festivals and town ferias to exhibitions, food, live music, and outdoor activities.
The idea is not to give you another enormous holiday list. We bring forward the events that may be useful, explain where and when they are happening, and help you understand what kind of plan each one might become.
Because late July has its own rhythm. The mornings can be for water, movement, or a gentle start. The middle of the day may belong to shade, lunch, the pool, a museum, or doing almost nothing at all.
Then, as the heat begins to ease, the coast switches back on. The ferias fill, the terraces become social, the concert audiences start moving, and towns that seemed half asleep at 4 in the afternoon are suddenly very much awake.
There is wisdom in doing less at 2 in the afternoon. That is not wasting the day. That is listening to July.
Exactly. So take what fits. You may hear one event that becomes the center of your week, or simply keep a few ideas nearby and let the day decide.
The weekly diary follows 5 parts each week. We begin with festivals and traditions, followed by culture and exhibitions, food and hospitality, music and nightlife, and finally, sports and outdoors.
For the latest event information behind the program, you can also browse malagaradio.net by date, town, and category. That is useful when you want to check a venue, revisit an event after listening, or see what else is happening close to where you are staying.
And this podcast is part of the wider Málaga Radio service. You can listen to the station live at malagaradio.com or through the Málaga Radio app, with music throughout the day and our programs guiding you through different sides of the Costa del Sol.
In the morning, Carmen and I host Freshly Squeezed from 8 until 11. That is where the weekly diary becomes more immediate with today's events, short local ideas, weather, traffic, airport, and port information.
Then the day continues with Feel the Pulse, Factor 50, and Ice and a Slice, covering activities, beaches, well-being, food, drinks, and ideas for the evening.
And when a subject deserves more than a quick mention, you will also find Málaga Radio podcasts exploring individual towns, major events, and practical parts of visiting the coast.
So the radio keeps you company during the day, malagaradio.net helps you browse the details, and the weekly diary gives you the wider picture before the week gets moving.
And now that you know how it works, we begin where the Costa del Sol summer usually begins.
With the ferias, Feria de la Cala de Mijas, Feria de Torre del Mar, and a weekend of smaller inland celebrations across the province.
Town lights, food, music, family activity, and a few places where the entire evening rhythm is about to change.
Málaga Radio.
We are beginning with the ferias, because this is the point in July when whole towns begin arranging their lives around the evening. And one of the biggest coastal celebrations this week is the Feria de la Cala de Mijas, running from Tuesday the 21st through Sunday the 26th of July. La Cala changes character during Feria week. There are family activities, fairground rides, music, food, illuminated streets, and that steady movement between the town itself and the evening fairground.
It is also one to know about even if you are not going. La Cala is normally easy to move around, but during the Feria, the roads, parking areas, and restaurants become much busier. If you are staying nearby, walking or using a taxi for the final part of the journey may feel easier than trying to place the car close to the action.
And the atmosphere changes through the day. The earlier hours are more family-focused, while the town becomes much more social once the heat begins to ease. By late evening, you have the lights, the casetas, the music, and people moving between dinner and the fairground. There is no need to treat it as a full-day commitment. You can let the afternoon pass, eat slowly, and come out when La Cala begins to feel alive again.
The musical program also gives the week different moods, from Spanish pop and tribute performances to flamenco fusion and more traditional Andalusian sounds. Sunday brings Russell and the La Loca on tour show, so that final evening will probably attract another strong crowd.
And La Cala also includes quieter periods at the fairground, with reduced sound and lighting intended to make the feria more comfortable for people who find the full sensory experience difficult. That is useful for families to know, because a feria can be joyful and very loud at the same time.
So, Feria de la Cala de Mijas, active through Sunday, a major town event, an easy evening option if you are staying around Mijas. Mijas or Fuengirola, and something that will affect local movement whether you attend or not.
On the eastern side of the coast, Torre del Mar has its Feria de Santiago y Santa Ana from Wednesday the 22nd through Sunday the 26th. This is one of those celebrations where the beach town and the feria blend together. The daytime activity stays close to the town and promenade, while the larger fairground atmosphere builds later.
And Torre del Mar has several distinct evenings rather than one single headline moment. Friday brings Merche, Saturday has Los Chunguitos, and Sunday closes with Daviles de Novelda. Those performances sit around the wider feria program with rides, family events, food, and the official municipal caseta.
But the most traditional moment arrives on Sunday. The town marks the Virgen del Carmen with a maritime and land procession. The image moves through Torre del Mar before being taken towards the sea, with local boats gathering offshore and large crowds lining the beachfront. It is a very emotional local tradition, and even if you only see part of it, you understand immediately that this is more than summer entertainment.
Sunday evening will therefore be especially busy around the promenade and the procession route. If you are heading into Torre del Mar for dinner or the closing night, it is worth allowing more time and checking the local arrangements before traveling. Some streets may be restricted as the procession moves through the town.
The useful thing about this feria is that it can fit several different moods. You could visit for the daytime atmosphere, go later for a concert, or simply spend the evening around the promenade and notice the town celebrating around you. No need to force the entire program into one visit.
And for listeners staying in Nurka, Torox, or the Exarchia, this is the major coastal feria on your side of the region this week.
The coast has the biggest crowds, but some of the most relaxed feria evenings are happening inland. Later in the week, Competa, La Viñuela, Alozaina, and Almachar all have local celebrations, and each offers a slightly different version of a Malaga summer fair.
These are better understood as 4 separate town experiences rather than one traveling circuit. The distances can look small on a map, but mountain roads take time, especially at night. One village evening is usually enough to give you the atmosphere without turning the feria into a driving exercise.
Competa runs from Thursday through Sunday, with music, dancing, horses, and the local Moscatel wine culture around Plaza Almijara.
Saturday is particularly strong for the town's equestrian traditions, followed later by a concert from Medina Azahara.
La Viñuela also celebrates from Thursday through Sunday. Its feria is smaller and strongly family-oriented, with local food, open-air music, and the reservoir landscape nearby. It might suit listeners looking for a village atmosphere without the scale of the major coastal fairgrounds.
Alozaina brings the traditions of Santiago and Santa Ana into the Sierra de las Nieves, with decorated streets, community events, and the kind of local food that belongs to the town rather than a festival catering company. This is also Alareña olive country, so food is naturally part of the identity.
And Almachar runs from Friday the 24th through Sunday the 26th. There are daytime activities, a youth feria, music, horse events, and a large community paella. It is one of the more participatory village celebrations rather than something designed only for spectators.
That is the charm of the inland fairs. You may arrive as a visitor, but the event is still clearly being held for the town itself. Families are together, neighbors are eating, children are running between activities, and the music continues after the heat has left the streets.
So if the coast feels too crowded by the weekend, an inland feria is one option to keep in your back pocket. Check the latest municipal program before setting out. Allow for slower mountain roads and let one village carry the evening.
A few more celebrations are worth knowing about. In Nueva Malaga, the festivities of Santa Ana and San Joaquin run from Thursday the 23rd through Sunday the 26th, combining parish events with a community charity verbena on Saturday evening.
On Saturday, the Virgen del Carmen del Litoral procession takes place around La Térmica and Malaga's western seafront. It is separate from the larger processions held earlier in July, so expect some local movement and temporary restrictions around the route.
Monday is also the closing day for several Malaga district fairs, including the celebrations around Santa Ynez, Campanillas, and Teatinos. These are neighborhood events rather than major tourist anchors, but they can be a pleasant surprise if you are staying nearby.
And on Sunday, the Castillo de Gibralfaro hosts a season-closing concert in one of Malaga's most atmospheric historic settings. Details and access are worth checking before traveling because events inside the castle can have controlled capacity and different arrival arrangements.
So that is the feria picture this week. La Cala de Mijas in the west, Torre del Mar in the east, several mountain towns lighting up inland, and smaller neighborhood traditions continuing across Malaga.
Plenty happening, but no requirement to chase all of it. Keep 1 or 2 possibilities nearby and let the evening decide.
Next, we move move into culture and exhibitions, with some cooler hour options in Málaga, Marbella, Mijas, and Estepona.
That includes theater, late museum openings, major exhibitions, and a few quieter places to keep in mind if the afternoon gets too heavy.
Málaga Radio.
If the afternoon becomes too heavy, Málaga has several ways to step out of the heat without stepping out of the week. El Fantasma de la Ópera continues at Teatro Cervantes from Wednesday the 22nd through Sunday the 26th of July. There are evening performances through the run, with additional afternoon shows across the weekend.
And this is a very easy reset. You can let the hottest part of the day pass, eat something nearby, and move into the theater once the city begins cooling down.
Exactly. No need to spend the afternoon marching around Málaga just because you are on holiday.
Teatro Cervantes gives you a full indoor evening right in the historic center, and the production is one of the larger theatrical events running in the city this summer.
It is also worth checking the performance time carefully before traveling because the weekend has more than one session on some days, so this is not one to approach with a vague, we will see what happens at the theater door.
A little nearby planning is helpful. The rest can stay relaxed. And Museo Carmen offers another version of a cooler cultural evening. On Thursday the 23rd, Noches Coanfi opens the museum from 8 until 11 at night with free access, guided visits, and live music in the courtyard.
That may be the gentlest culture option in this chapter. You are not committing to a full performance. You can go in for a couple of cooler hours, look around, hear some music, and then let dinner happen afterwards.
Then on Friday the 24th, the museum has a theatrical guided visit based around the Ribalta exhibition. That is more structured, so it is worth checking availability and the latest access details before setting out.
But the principle is very simple. If the afternoon has taken all your energy, you do not have to abandon the evening. Move indoors, slow the pace, and let the air conditioning do some of the work.
Further west, Estepona brings opera and zarzuela into the open air with the festival Lírico Ciudad de Estepona. It takes place at the Plaza de Toros on Friday the 24th and Saturday the 25th of July. Friday brings Puccini's Madama Butterfly, followed on Saturday by the Spanish zarzuela Agua, Azucarillos y Aguardiente.
And this is one of those events that sounds much more formal than the evening needs to feel. You are in an open-air bull ring in Estepona, not being examined on your knowledge of opera.
Thank goodness. You can go because the music interests you, because the setting is unusual, or simply because you feel like trying something different after a day by the sea.
The two nights also offer quite different moods. Friday is the full dramatic opera. Saturday is lighter, more distinctly Spanish, and closer to musical comedy.
So if one evening sounds more like you than the other, that is completely fine. The festival is free, but it is still worth checking the municipal information before traveling, especially for arrival arrangements and capacity.
And if you are staying around Estepona, Manilva, or the western side of Marbella, this gives you a strong cultural evening without crossing the whole coast into Malaga.
Let Estepona carry the night. Dinner nearby, the performance, and perhaps a walk afterwards. Nothing more complicated than that. For a quieter daytime option, two major Spanish artists are being shown in smaller regional museums this week. In Marbella, the Museo del Grabado Español Contemporáneo has Salvador Dalí, 10 Recetas de Inmortalidad. The exhibition includes a rare portfolio of engravings created around the theme of immortality and visual illusion.
And this is where Marbella becomes useful in a completely different way. You can spend the morning in the old town, move into the museum when the streets get hot, and come back outside when you are ready.
The museum is housed in the historic hospital Bazan, so the building is part of the experience too. This is not a huge museum day. It is a focused visit that can fit around lunch, shopping, or a walk through the Casco Antiguo.
Which is sometimes exactly what you want. Not every cultural visit needs to become a 3-hour test of character.
And in Mijas Pueblo, the Centro de Arte Contemporáneo has an exhibition devoted to Juan Miró, with 27 works showing his bold color, shape, and visual language. It sits alongside the museum's permanent Picasso and Dalí collections.
That one fits well with a slower visit to Mijas Pueblo. You can have the village, the views, the museum, and lunch without pretending you are completing a cultural marathon.
Both exhibitions are there throughout the week, so they do not need to be forced into one specific day. Keep them in your back pocket for a morning when the beach feels too hot, too busy, or simply not like the right mood. There are several more exhibitions and cultural options worth knowing about. At Mucac La Coracha in Malaga, Mi Porción del Pastel reaches the end of its run on Sunday the 26th. It is shown alongside Tejiendo Historias, a larger exhibition exploring textile work by Spanish women artists.
That gives you a free indoor option close to Paseo de Reding and the eastern side of the city center. It is useful when you want culture without turning it into an expensive afternoon.
Also in Malaga, the Colección del Museo Ruso has Valery Katsuba's Realismo Romántico, examining movement, physical effort, and the human form through photography. And the Museo Carmen continues its tribute to Malaga artist Manuel Franquelo.
In Marbella, the Feria del Libro continues around the Paseo de la Alameda with evening activity, books, signings, and family programming under the trees. That is one you can encounter casually rather than build a full plan around.
In Fuengirola, Guadalquivir is a free photography exhibition at the Casa de la Cultura, following the Guadalquivir River through landscapes, communities, and centuries of Andalusian life.
And on Monday evening, in Ronda, Los Niños Cantores de París perform a sacred choral recital inside Santa Maria la Major. That is a specific date event, so one to check carefully if it fits the beginning of your week.
Benalmádena also begins its Cultura en la Calle program, bringing cinema, music, and cultural performances into public spaces across the municipality during the summer.
And Antequera continues Luz de Luna, using the cooler evening hours for heritage visits, cultural activity, and nighttime experiences around the town and El Torcal.
So culture and exhibitions this week can be a full theater night, free opera in Estepona, a late museum opening, or simply one quiet gallery when the sun becomes too much.
Take the version that fits your energy.
Next, we move into food and hospitality, with slow lunches, rooftop evenings, market flavors, and a few reasons to leave the beach without rushing.
Including a palace courtyard in Malaga, a weekend food market in Estepona, craft beer experiences, and some very different ways to turn dinner into the evening itself.
Málaga Radio.
Food comes next, and this week Malaga has a very polished version of the chiringuito idea without actually putting you on the sand. Restaurante Balausta, inside the 18th century Palacio Solezio in the historic center, is running its summer jornadas de chiringuito throughout the week. The menu takes familiar coastal flavors and brings them into the palace courtyard, with dishes such as flame-grilled sardines, black rice with baby squid and white prawns, and a cold seafood salad with carabinero and avocado.
Which is useful when you want chiringuito food, but not necessarily the heat, the towels, and the search for one remaining table beside the beach.
Exactly. Same coastal appetite, slightly less sand in your shoes.
And the setting makes this feel less like a quick lunch stop and more like somewhere you can let the afternoon slow down.
This is where I would avoid trying to squeeze lunch between three other plans. If Balausta is the meal, let it be the meal. Historic center, shaded courtyard, proper food, and then you can decide whether the rest of the afternoon needs to achieve anything at all.
The menu also keeps the Malaga identity very clear. There is local seafood, axarquia avocado, traditional rice dishes, and the restaurant's own version of ajo blanco, made with pine nuts and served with local scampi.
And because it is a restaurant rather than a drop-in food market, checking availability before you go will make the whole thing easier. Not because the week needs more organization, but because turning up hungry and hopeful is a poor holiday strategy.
That is practical wisdom, not pressure. Balausta is there throughout the week if you want one slower, more deliberate lunch in Malaga. For something more informal, Estepona has the Mercado de los Sabores from Friday the 24th through Sunday the 26th of July. It takes place along the port promenade with artisan cheeses, cured meats, breads, local wines, and street food stalls, creating a food market atmosphere beside the water.
This is the kind of one where I would not build the entire evening around a single dish. Go because you feel like walking, tasting a few things, looking at the stalls, and letting dinner assemble itself.
Yes, one plate becomes another. Someone finds cheese, someone finds bread, and suddenly the group has made a meal without holding a formal meeting.
That is the strongest use of a market like this. It suits mixed groups because nobody has to agree on one restaurant, one menu, or one exact time to sit down.
The promenade setting also means you can keep the evening easy. You might browse the market, stop for something small, continue towards the marina, or simply stay near the water as the temperature drops.
And if you're already on the western side of the coast, this gives you a food event without traveling into central Malaga or Marbella. No heroic crossing of the A7 required.
The market runs across the weekend, so it can remain a back pocket option rather than a fixed appointment. Check the latest local times before traveling, then let appetite do the rest. Marbella offers a very different version of food and hospitality this week. Mamzel, at Finca Basaya above the Golden Mile, continues its dinner show program from Wednesday through Sunday. The evening begins as a restaurant experience with Mediterranean and French influence, Argentine charcoal cooking, and live performance building around the table.
And this is not dinner before the entertainment. Dinner is the entertainment.
Exactly. There are dancers, acrobatic performances, fire acts, and live elements before the evening moves towards a later DJ atmosphere.
So this is one for the night when nobody wants to discuss where to go after dinner. You arrive, you eat, the show develops, and the venue gradually becomes the rest of the night.
It is also a more expensive and structured experience than the other food options in this chapter, so this is where checking the format, price level, and availability matters.
And I would think of it as one complete evening rather than trying to pair it with another major event. Mamselle plus Starlite plus a beach club in one night is not ambitious. It is poor logistics wearing a nice shirt.
That may be the most Baptiste sentence of the week.
But it is true. If that theatrical dinner style suits you, let Mamselle carry the night. If it does not, Marbella has plenty of quieter terraces and restaurants without the performance layer.
That is the point of this chapter. Food can be the main event, or it can simply be the gentle reason you move somewhere else. There are several more food and drink options worth keeping in mind. On the rooftop of the H10 Croma in Malaga, Sed de Malaga pairs a 4-course tasting menu with different cervezas Victoria beer styles throughout the week.
That one is structured and reservation-led, so it suits the evening when you want the food and drink pairing to be the experience rather than just ordering a beer with dinner.
La Fábrica Cruzcampo in Soho also continues its craft beer visits, tastings, and pouring workshops. There is an English-language brewery visit and tasting on Monday the 20th, with other sessions continuing through the week.
That is a good indoor option when the group wants to do something but nobody wants another museum. You learn something, drink something, and remain out of the strongest sun.
Brisa Festival, from Thursday through Saturday, also includes its own gastronomic area at the port of Malaga, with local food trucks, regional products, and craft drinks alongside the music.
So if you are already going to Brisa, you do not necessarily need a separate dinner expedition before the festival. You can keep the evening in one place and reduce the amount of rushing around Malaga.
In Ronda, several high-altitude vineyard estates continue private tours and tastings through the week, including pairings with local cheese and Iberian charcuterie.
That is more of a half-day experience than a casual drop-in. Ronda roads take time, wine tours need booking, and the driver question is worth settling before the tasting begins.
A very sensible point. On Tuesday the 21st, Ocean Club Marbella marks Belgian National Day with Fête de Belge, combining its poolside setting with food, champagne, and a large daytime celebration.
And this is firmly at the luxury end of the scale. It is one to know about because it will affect the atmosphere around Puerto Banús, even if premium pool beds and champagne service are not your preferred Tuesday.
Malaga also has the Ruta Premium de Coctelería de Verano, linking several rooftops through a self-guided summer cocktail
That one
route.
works best as a loose idea, not a challenge. One rooftop may be enough. Nobody is awarding medals for completing Malaga's cocktail skyline in one evening.
And on Sunday, the Mercado Urbano del Soho returns to Calle Tomás Heredia, with local food products, crafts, cheese, olive oil, honey, and sweet
A
wine.
gentle Sunday browse, especially if you are already around Soho or the port. No reservation, no tasting menu, just something to wander through before lunch.
So food and hospitality this week can be a palace courtyard, a waterfront market, a complete dinner show, a rooftop tasting, or one small plate discovered while
Let
walking.
hunger make some of the decisions. It is often more reliable than a timetable.
Next, the coast turns the volume up with music and
Brisa
nightlife.
in Malaga, Starlite in Marbella, Marenostrum in Fuengirola, plus electronic festivals, beach sessions, and a few smaller live music options away from the biggest crowds.
Málaga Radio.
Music and nightlife begins in Malaga, where Brisa Festival takes over the Dique de Levante at the port from Thursday the 23rd through Saturday the 25th of July. This is one of the city's major summer festivals, with Spanish indie, pop, rock, and electronic music spread across 3 evenings beside the water.
And this is the point where Malaga stops feeling like a city with a festival and starts feeling like the festival has borrowed part of the city.
Yes, the port becomes the venue, the historic center, and Soho take the late-night movement, and you feel the audience arriving long before the first major act appears. Thursday is led by Love of Lesbian with David Otero and a DJ set from Hot Chip also on the program.
That opening night has a broad enough mix that a group does not need identical music taste to make it work. One person comes for the indie bands, another waits for the electronic set, and everybody gets the port at night.
Friday brings Amaya, Leon Benavente, Siloe, and Soleya Morente. Then Saturday closes with M-Clan, La M, ODA, OBK, Pinuaz, and a larger supporting program across the festival stages.
Saturday is also the night when I would keep the rest of Malaga very simple. There are several major events in and around the city, so Brisa plus a complicated dinner reservation plus another concert is how a relaxed evening becomes transport management.
Exactly. Eat near the port, use the festival's food area if that suits you, and allow Brisa to be the evening. The venue has also developed extensive extensive accessibility support, including measures for people with hearing or visual impairments.
That matters because accessibility should not be an afterthought at a major event. And even if you are not attending, Brisa is one to know about. The port, Soho, and the center will all feel busier, particularly when the audience leaves later at night.
So if your plans are elsewhere in Malaga, give yourself a little more time and check the latest access and transport information before traveling.
Not a warning to stay away, just a reminder that 15,000 people rarely leave a festival invisibly.
In Marbella, Starlite Occident has one of its strongest weeks of the summer at the Cantera de Nagueles. John Legend performs on Monday the 20th, Diana Krall on Tuesday, Carlos Rivera on Wednesday, Kool and the Gang on Thursday, and Miguel Rios on Saturday the 25th.
That is almost 5 different festivals sharing one quarry.
It really is. John Legend brings contemporary soul and R&B. Diana Krall shifts the mood towards jazz. Carlos Rivera brings Latin pop. Kool and the Gang bring funk and disco. And Miguel Rios closes the week with Spanish rock.
So Starlite is not one musical personality this week. The useful question is not, do I like Starlite? It is, which night sounds like me?
And the quarry setting is part of the appeal. The audience is enclosed by the stone walls of the Cantera de Nagueles, making the concerts feel more intimate than a standard open-air stadium show.
But this is also where I would not improvise the arrival. The venue is outside central Marbella. The concerts attract large crowds, and the journey in and out is part of the evening.
No last-minute dinner in the old town followed by a heroic dash to the quarry.
Exactly. Give the evening one center of gravity, dinner near your accommodation, transport arranged sensibly, then Starlite.
The venue also continues into a late-night club environment after the main concert, so listeners who want a longer evening can stay within the same setting.
And listeners who do not want that can leave after the concert without feeling they have only completed half the experience. That is the guided choice here. Concert night or concert plus late night. Both are valid.
Check the specific performance details and ticket availability before traveling, because each evening operates as its own event. Fuengirola has 3 major consecutive nights at Marenostrum beside Castillo Sohail. Alejandro Sanz performs on Friday the 24th, Los Delincuentes on Saturday the 25th, and Baile leads Sunday's Latin Urban program on the 26th.
And this is where I would let Fuengirola be the destination, not merely the concert venue.
Exactly. Dinner nearby, time around the seafront, and the walk towards the castle grounds as the evening begins. The setting gives Marenostrum a very different feeling from an indoor arena. You have the open sky, the coastline, and the castle rising behind the venue.
Friday with Alejandro Sanz is the biggest mainstream Spanish pop night of the 3, and it has already attracted very strong demand. So even if you are not attending, expect extra movement around Fuengirola and the routes towards Castillo Sohail.
Saturday changes the energy with Los Delincuentes and their mix of flamenco, rock, and Andalusian character. Then Sunday brings Baile with Nanpa Básico and Louis Potter also on the program.
3 nights, 3 different audiences. That is why I would not describe Marenostrum as one general recommendation. Friday suits one mood, Saturday another, Sunday another.
And if you are staying around Fuengirola, Los Boliches, Benalmádena, or Mijas, this gives you a major concert without crossing the whole coast.
Which becomes increasingly attractive by the 4th traffic queue of July.
Very attractive.
Check the latest venue information before traveling, particularly transport arrangements and entry times. The concert may begin at night, but the audience starts moving much earlier.
Saturday the 25th is especially crowded with music choices. At La Malagueta in Malaga, El Arrebato performs as part of the 101 Music Festival, bringing Spanish pop and flamenco rumba into the historic bull ring.
That runs on the same night as the final evening of Brisa, so Central Malaga will be carrying 2 large audiences at once. Pick the event that suits you and let it have the night.
Also on Saturday, Sophie Festival returns to August Park in Churiana with Jamie Jones, Traumer, Subin, and a long program of house and techno running from afternoon into the early hours.
That is a full festival session, not a casual hour of electronic music before dinner. Once you go in, assume the night has chosen its direction.
Torremolinos opens its Plaza Paraíso season on Saturday with Loco Bongo at the Bull Ring. It mixes pop music, drag performance, games, and deliberately over-the-top theatrical energy.
Then on Sunday, the same brand moves to Hotel Ritual for Loco Bongo Splash, an adult-only daytime pool party. Same playful personality, considerably more swimwear.
In Marbella, La Plage Casanis has Mau Pi on Wednesday the 22nd for its IWED beachfront session. On Sunday, the venue slows the sound slightly for its sunset ritual with kimonos.
Those are golden hour beach club plans, where the transition from lunch to music to sunset is the whole idea. They are also reservation-led and at the premium end, so checking access before arriving matters.
Ocean Club Marbella also has a major Sunday event with Solomon running through the afternoon at the pool in Puerto Banús.
And that is firmly in luxury day club territory. It will suit some listeners perfectly, while others may be equally happy knowing why Puerto Banús feels particularly busy that afternoon.
For something quieter on Saturday, candlelight performances take place in Málaga and Benahavís. Gran Hotel Miramar has programs based around Disney songs and Vivaldi, while Villa Padierna hosts an open-air tribute to the music of Hans Zimmer.
A useful alternative when you want live music without festival scale, dust, or standing for 6 hours.
There are also smaller live music options throughout the week. ZZ Pub in Málaga continues its rock, soul, and jam sessions, while Louis Louis at Estepona Port has live band karaoke on Friday and an open stage jam on Sunday.
Those are good back pocket venues. No massive production, no need to build the whole day around them, just somewhere to go when dinner ends and nobody feels ready for bed.
Estepona also has its charitable Noche Blanca on Saturday at Mirador del Carmen with Compás Flamenco and Sótano Sur.
A more community-focused evening and a much smaller scale alternative to the commercial festivals elsewhere on the coast.
So music and nightlife this week can mean a port festival, a quarry concert, a castleside stage, a beach club sunset, a classical string performance, or a small rock bar.
The coast is not short of volume. The useful part is choosing how much of it you actually want.
Next, we move into sports and outdoors with water, early starts, and a few ways to stay active without arguing with the July heat.
That includes the Spanish Athletics Championships, night routes in El Torcal, canyoning, paddleboarding, traditional jabiga racing, and movement kept firmly at the cooler edges of the day.
Málaga Radio.
Sports and outdoors begins in Málaga, where the Spanish National Athletics Championships take place from Friday the 24th through Sunday the 26th of July. The Estadio de Atletismo Ciudad de Málaga will bring together Spain's top track and field athletes for national titles and international qualifying marks.
And this is the rare outdoor event where the hard work is being done by somebody else.
Exactly. You can sit in the stands, watch elite competition, and still count it as a very active evening.
The main sessions are weighted towards the later part of the day, which makes sense in July. You get the stadium, atmosphere, the floodlights, and the evening breeze without asking spectators to sit through the strongest afternoon heat.
It is also an easy event to understand even if you do not follow athletics closely. You have sprint finals, distance races, jumps and throws moving through the program, so there is usually something happening rather than one long build-up to a single match.
And this is where I would check the daily schedule before choosing a session. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday will not carry the same events, so the best evening depends on whether you are more interested in speed, endurance, or the field competitions.
Or whether you simply want the atmosphere of a national championship in Málaga.
That works too. And if you decide the hotel air conditioning is winning, the championship is also being broadcast, so the sport can come to you.
A perfectly respectable late July compromise. For something completely different, El Torcal de Antequera offers guided night routes through its limestone landscape. The strongest dates this week are Friday the 24th and Saturday the 25th, with evening departures as the sun drops and the moonlight begins to take over.
And this is one of those places where waiting until dark does not feel like settling for the cooler option. The landscape actually becomes stranger and more dramatic at night.
The white limestone reflects the moonlight, the heat leaves the rock, and the formations begin to look almost theatrical. There are guided routes based around legends, mythology, and the natural history of El Torcal.
This is where I would keep the equipment boring and sensible. Good footwear, a light layer for later, and a backup torch. The setting can be magical without the footwear becoming imaginative.
No sandals because the moon looks romantic.
Exactly. The ground is irregular, the routes are guided, and the temperature at altitude can fall quickly after sunset.
But this is a very good example of the week's rhythm. You do not have to fight the mountain at midday. You can wait, travel inland later, and experience the landscape when it is cooler and quieter.
And Antequera gives you other evening options too. On Thursday, the 23rd, the Alcazaba hosts yoga and sound therapy within the historic fortress walls.
That is movement at the gentler end of the scale. You still leave the coast, you still get the evening air and the setting, but nobody is asking you to climb a ridge.
A useful option for the person in the group who heard outdoor activity and immediately began negotiating.
If you want something more active, the inland water routes offer a very different answer to the July heat. At Benahavís, the canyon of the Angosturas follows the Guadalmina River through a narrow, shaded gorge with cool water, natural pools, and optional jumps.
And this is not the same as deciding to walk beside a river on your own. It is a guided canyoning activity with equipment, route knowledge, and people who know where the safe sections are.
The route is considered suitable for beginners, but it is still a physical experience. You are moving through water, over rock, and along the canyon for several hours.
So the relaxed choice is not turning up unprepared. The relaxed choice is using a proper operator, wearing shoes with grip, and letting the guide handle the clever decisions.
Further inland, near Juscar, Cima del Diablo is the more technical option. It includes waterfalls, abseiling, and a colder, more demanding canyon environment.
That one is not Angosturas, but slightly more. It is a different level of activity and suits people who actually want a technical canyoning day.
Then at Embalse de Istan, the mood slows down again. The reservoir offers calm, early morning water for stand-up paddleboarding and kayaking, surrounded by pine-covered hills and without motorized boats disturbing the surface.
That may be the easiest way to feel properly away from the coast without going very far from Marbella. Go early, use the flat water, finish before the wind picks up, and then give the middle of the day back to lunch.
Which is exactly the spirit of this week. Movement first, shade afterwards. There are several more active options worth keeping in mind. In Malaga, the Gran Premio La Araña Jabega Regatta takes place on Saturday the 25th along the eastern shoreline. Traditional wooden rowing boats compete off the beach, bringing together sport and Malaga's maritime history.
And that works well as a spectator plan. You can watch from the shore, spend some time around La Araña, and nobody in your group has to train for it first.
Also on Saturday morning, Malaga has a municipal pickleball tournament at the Polideportivo Ciudad Jardín. It is a registered competition with limited places, so this is for participants who have already checked the entry arrangements rather than spontaneous spectators with a paddle.
At La Malagueta, early morning stand-up paddleboarding remains one of the simplest ways to use the calmest part of the day. The water is generally quieter just after sunrise before the beach and the wind become busier.
And in the evening, e-bike routes along Malaga's western waterfront offer movement with considerably less effort.
Which is exactly what electric assistance was invented for, seeing more coastline without arriving at dinner looking defeated.
At the Guadalhorce River estuary, the cooler evening period also suits a gentle walk between the lagoons and birdwatching points.
That is movement without performance. Flat trails, sunset light, and enough wildlife to make stopping frequently look intentional.
For a much harder mountain option, La Concha above Marbella requires a very early start. The classic route is long, exposed, and includes technical sections near the ridge.
And this is where no need to force it becomes important. La Concha is not a casual holiday walk in late July. If the start is not at dawn, the weather looks uncertain, or the group is not properly equipped, another day is a better decision.
Near Nurka, guided kayak routes around the Maro Terro Gordo cliffs offer sea caves, clear water, and the possibility of reaching the Maro waterfall.
Again, early is the friendly version, calmer water, better visibility, and a slightly better chance of finding somewhere to leave the car.
For younger visitors, the Real Club Mediterráneo in Malaga continues its Blue Summer water sports program with sailing, rowing, windsurfing, and paddleboarding in the morning.
That is a structured camp rather than a drop-in holiday activity, so families will need to check eligibility and registration before treating it as a weekly option.
And in Igualecha, guided caving at the Cueva de las Excentricas offers a complete escape from the surface heat.
Underground air conditioning, but with helmets, ropes, and considerably more crawling.
So sports and outdoors this week does not require midday heroics. It can mean watching elite athletics, walking El Torcal under the moon, paddling at sunrise, moving through a shaded canyon, or simply watching traditional boats race from the beach.
Use the cooler edges of the day, choose the version that matches your actual energy, and leave something in reserve for the evening.
And that completes our 5 weekly diary categories for July the 20th through the 26th.
Next, we can step back, write the opening and closing around the finished episode, and bring the whole week together at the right pace.
Málaga Radio.
And that is our look at what is happening across Malaga and the Costa del Sol from Monday the 20th through Sunday the 26th of July. Ferias in La Cala de Mijas and Torre del Mar, culture in Malaga, Mijas, Marbella, and Estepona, slower food plans, some very big music nights, and plenty of ways to stay active without arguing with the middle of the day.
You do not need to fit all of it into 1 week. Keep 1 or 2 ideas nearby, check the latest details before traveling, and let the weather, your energy, and your appetite decide the rest.
You have been listening to the Málaga Radio Weekly Diary. You can find the podcast through Málaga Radio and on the major podcast platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and YouTube.
And if you use a smart speaker, you can ask Alexa to play the Málaga Radio Weekly Diary. For the event details behind this episode, visit malagaradio.net, where you can browse what is is happening by town, date, and category.
Málaga Radio is also with you throughout the day. Start the morning with Freshly Squeezed from 8 until 11, where Baptiste and I bring you the day's useful events, weather, traffic, airport, and port information.
Then Feel the Pulse runs from 11 until 2 with Mitch, Lumi, and Finn exploring activities, places to go, and different ways to experience the coast.
From 2 until 6, Pia is with you on Factor 50, covering beaches, wellness, summer heat, and the slower side of the afternoon.
And from 6 until 10, Daniel takes over with Ice and a Slice with food, drinks, terraces, and ideas for the evening ahead.
There are also more Málaga Radio podcasts waiting for you, including our town guides, special features, and deeper stories from across the Costa del Sol.
So wherever you are staying this week, enjoy the mornings, respect the afternoons, and come back out when the lights begin to appear.
Thank you for spending part of your holiday with us.
Take care, enjoy the coast,
And we will see you next time on the Málaga Radio Weekly Diary.
Málaga Radio. Málaga Radio.